Yo, what's up? It's Jesse from the Dads in Timeout podcast. Gonna shoot a quick little video. Um, I was gonna shoot one earlier going over all my picks from the second round because I haven't posted a podcast. I'm sorry, for the first round. I haven't posted since the first round. I've been really busy with my kid, and just finding a place to record at my house is pretty much impossible. But so we have the Nets eliminated. So we have the Bucks and the Hawks and the Clippers and the Suns in the conference finals. And I just wanted to give a quick couple of thoughts on just a lot of the narratives I've been hearing. Number one, I think we can all safely say that if the Nets are healthy, they would have blown out the Bucks. That's not a shot at the Bucks. It's just they would have, in my opinion, the three best players on the floor, with Giannis being the fourth. Or I would say they had two of the three best players. It would probably go Kevin Durant, James Harden, if they're all healthy, Giannis, and then Kyrie. All top 15 players, with Giannis and KD and Harden, I think, all being in the top 10. So KD was asked to carry a load that it looked like he wasn't able to carry, and that's not a shot. It's just he was gassed at the end. But and that's the thing, when a lot of people have LeBron at one or two all time, he is going to be judged different. But when you have Kevin Durant as the best player in the world right now, as a lot of media people have, then my question would be, then why don't we judge him? Like, certain analysts, Skip Bayless, will say things like, oh, well, LeBron had 51. You have to finish that off. Or LeBron was up 2-1 against the Warriors. He had to finish that off. Like, he was playing 40-plus minutes a game, dragging that team. Yes, Matthew Dellavedova was playing his heart out, but LeBron was the heart, soul, talent of that 2015 Cavs team. And it's just funny how we don't always hold people to the same standard, right? That we don't hold people to the same expectations, even though, like, people keep. And here's the thing: like, if you say Kevin Durant's the best player in the NBA right now, I wouldn't be hard pressed to argue with you, right? But if you're going to try to put him above LeBron all time, it's ridiculous. He doesn't have the MVPs because he continues to play on stacked teams. Because LeBron won 2 MVPs in Miami with 2 other All-Stars. So they weren't taking votes away from him. When Kevin Durant went to Golden State, that was the end of Steph winning MVPs, and that was the end of Kevin Durant winning MVPs. Now he's on a team with James Harden and Kyrie Irving, and if they all average 20-something points a game, they're going to take MVP. Like, people are going to be less likely to give him the MVP. So I was amazed at what Kevin Durant was able to do, but they lost. And if you stack up the rosters, Kevin Durant, of the people who played, right? So Kevin Durant, Blake Griffin, Bruce Brown, Joe Harris against, then you would, and Landry Shamet. So on the other side, you would have Giannis, Middleton, Drew Holiday, Pat Connaughton, and Bryn Forbes, right? I'm sure, Brooke Lopez, right? Is the talent level really that much different? So on the Nets, and Harden played the last 2 games. You could say, oh, well, he was limited and hurt, but he was out there, right? Sorry, there's flies out here, and I hate flies. But he's out there, right? So we have to judge him on how he played. Now, I can obviously understand he was hurt. The Milwaukee Bucks did everything in their power to lose that series. And listen, Kevin Durant hit the shot at the end of regulation in Game 7, and they just lost. So I'm not taking shots at the Nets, and people are saying, oh, well, if they're healthy next year, that's not a guarantee. Kevin Durant coming off the Achilles. He's been hurt before that. Kyrie Irving was nicked up in Cleveland. He got hurt in the finals in 2015. He stays getting injured. Now, James Harden, this is his first major injury, but we've also seen him flame out in the playoffs. Let's get to the other series that was interesting, and that was the Utah Jazz and the Clippers. So the Clippers are just going to go down 0-2, it looks like, in every series, unless they win against Phoenix in Game 2. And I understand the Mavs not being able to hold that series lead. All the Mavs fans are like, we blew a 2-0 series lead. It's y'all shouldn't have been up 2-0 anyways. The talent on your roster is not comparable to the Clippers. And all the Clippers had to do was let Luka cook in the first couple of quarters and then wait for him to tire out and then wait for his shooters to stop shooting 50% from 3 from the series. And that's what happened. So then you play the Jazz, who have a 2-0 lead. I know Mitchell's limited, and Conley probably shouldn't have even played in Game 6. You're up 25. at halftime. You cannot blow that kind of lead and give up 81 points in the second half. Rudy Gobert is getting a lot of the heat, but Quinn Snyder, who I've always been high on, you got to take him out, or you got to figure out something. I've heard that they could have played 5 guards, so that would have been Ingles, O'Neal, Clarkson, Mitchell, and Conley, or switch one of those out for Bogdanovich. But then the Clippers are just going to go to the rim, and you just have to figure out, when Kawhi Leonard gets hurt, how to make that series go 7 at least. So I don't know what the Jazz do. I mean, Gobert's good in the regular season, but it's been proven how to attack him in the postseason. And like Bill Simmons said, it's hard to ask him to do what they were asking him to do, is guard the paint and run out and contest threes and challenge the mid-range game. So I don't think that's fair to ask of him. I don't think. See, what happens is we give regular season awards, and then the playoffs come in a particular matchup, because the postseason is 7-game series and the regular season is just 72 games now, and so you're not playing teams back to back to back. So teams don't game plan for you. So that's why the awards are different. To whereas I have a game plan and I have to say, okay, I have 7 games, or between 4 and 7 games, to figure out how to stop this one guy. And then we have in-game adjustments. That helps, right? So then we get to the playoffs, and that's why, for instance, Julius Randle torched the Hawks during the regular season, but then they have that film, and they're like, okay, we're just worried about this series. They figured out, okay, we're just going to run this type of defense at him. He hasn't been in this moment before, and boom, that's how that happens. So I don't think you get rid of Quinn Snyder, but you got to learn from this, because the Jazz were also up 3-1 on Utah last year. And I know Bogdanovich was hurt last year, but it's 2 seasons in a row, right? And so it's just interesting to see how all this has played out. The Hawks continue to surprise people, but after I watched the Hawks, I was like, okay, they have a more complete team than the Sixers, right? It's like their guys on their team know their role. Clint Capella gets the ball on some alley-oops. He gets some offensive rebounds. He blocks some shots. Herter comes in there. He's kind of like their little heat check guy. He's always moving without the ball. Bogdanovich was hurt. He's your shooter, but he can also take people off the dribble. Trae Young runs their offense. He can light you up for 30, but he can play really well even when he's not shooting the ball well, which I was very impressed by. And then you have John Collins, who just kind of fills in the gaps and can electrify the crowd with some dunks. So, and then Philadelphia blew this one. I mean, that's no shot at Atlanta, but you're up 2-1 in the series. And I also saw the point that was made about why was Ben Simmons and Dwight Howard on the court together. And so they did play some weird lineups. I mean, Tyrese Maxey actually played really well for them at times, but obviously the Simmons and Embiid thing just doesn't work. Whether it's the paint is clogged up, whether Simmons is scared to shoot the ball because of free throws and he doesn't have a jump shot. But I watched at least the last 2 of those games, and I watched 3 or 4 of the games in this series. I don't remember. I may have watched more than that. Ben Simmons wanted no parts on offense. Like, he would get the ball down the court. He would pass it before he got to midcourt, and then he would just go stand somewhere on offense. Like, wasn't trying to, like, do anything on offense. Then he would post up randomly, and I'm like, dude, you haven't been involved in offense the whole time. So it didn't make any sense to me. Like, I get, like, at some point you're going to get fouled, but they can't hack a Ben you the whole game. Be aggressive. There was a couple of plays where he got the ball, drove it to the hoop, and I'm like, that's what you have to do. If you're not going to shoot, he averaged like 16 to 18 points a game in several seasons recently in his career. I think even this year, just by getting to the hole, because he's 6'11" and he can drive the ball. And then in this series, he was like, pass the ball off. So they were basically playing 4-on-5 on offense. And then they'd take him out, and Maxey played well. Shake Milton, I mean, he would randomly show up at the end of games. And I've also heard a lot of criticisms on Doc Rivers, saying that Doc Rivers is the reason that teams keep blowing these series. But go look at the teams. The Magic were young. They had Tracy McGrady early in his career. Then he coached Boston, and okay, he blew a 3-2 series lead to the Big Three Heat after they had won a championship. And then they had been to a championship. Then they lost in the second round to the Heat in 2011. Then he goes to the Clippers, and you have just a bad put together team. You had Blake, like their 3 stars weren't outside shooters. You had Chris Paul, you had Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan. So I don't know how much of that translates to Doc. I think Doc actually did try to put different players in there. I mean, he started Korkmaz. He had Tyrese Maxey and Thibault coming off the bench, played Dwight Howard some minutes. Dwight Howard's a goofball. So I just think it's interesting with that. So shout out to the Hawks, though. The Hawks won this series. I thought they should have won this series in 6 games. Not from the beginning, but how the series played out, I'm surprised that Philadelphia came back and won Game 6. And so the Suns, of course, dominated the Nuggets. I don't even want to cover that because it was Jokic and some other dudes, and Michael Porter Jr. was obviously not good. He's probably, they said he was dealing with back issues, so he was a non-factor. And then the Clippers, and we'll see if Kawhi comes back. But I think it's interesting that we have 4 teams that haven't won a championship since 1971, and that was the Bucks. The Suns have never won a championship, and who else is in this? Oh, the Hawks haven't won since they were in St. Louis, and the Clippers have never won a championship. So it's going to be an interesting playoffs. Sorry I got to cut this short, but I at least wanted to give you some thoughts on that, and maybe I'll shoot another video tonight and post it. So I'll post this to Twitter and give you my YouTube link and all that. So till next time, peace.